Well, that's one of the biggest challenges of business as a whole is understanding capital. Most people don't understand capital. Most people don't understand how to truly invest. And so what ends up happening is when you start looking at reinvesting, let's take team for a moment, right? So when people look at hiring another team member, what's the first thing that comes to their mind? Expenses, right? It's going to be such an expense. Well, first of all, we don't ever hire anybody without thinking, like I'll look at the team and say, what's the return? Why am I hiring this person, right? We don't just hire people to hire people. We don't hire for bodies because if you listen to your team, they'll always tell you they need more people, right? And so first we have a need in the business, and then we look at what could that do? What am I doing, first of all, that maybe I shouldn't be doing, that if I brought in that person, it would free my time up to go do other things. And then what return would this person have? What's the total return of that person? But people are so worried about making that investment. Corporations aren't worried about making that investment. You got to make investment. And it might be whether it's your branding, it might be marketing, it might be team, it might be equipment, it might be whatever it is. People are scared and they don't understand capital investment. And they don't understand return on investment. And they're taking advice from accountants about building businesses. And that's not what accountants do. Accountants don't build businesses. They pay taxes. They reduce expenses. You got to learn, like if you want to learn something, you got to learn how to invest capital. You got to get return on capital. That's what you want to do as a business owner. Corporations have teams of people who research this stuff. There's something called the weighted average cost of capital. A fancy way of saying what return do we need to get on our equity and debt. They do the same things, believe it or not, that an individual does. They look at, hey, how much cash do we want to use, stock, and how much debt do we want to use, bonds, right? Well, we do that when we buy a car. It's called down payment, right? It's no different, except for corporations aren't buying depreciating assets, I hope. They're buying things that have return, unlike cars. So what ends up happening is in a business, you would do the same thing. You would say, okay, well, this person is going to cost this much. What's the return on this person, and how quickly would I get the return? How quickly you get the return is also just as important, because what if the return is 6 months? Can you cash flow that, right? So then you have to start thinking, okay, it's going to cost me an initial investment of X amount because it's going to take me a while to get them trained, up and going. Do I have that aside? Most businesses don't look at that. And then when I do, what's the return on them? So I think that if business owners could really get the right advice, first of all, quit asking your accountant for capital investment advice, and then learn how to invest capital, and then learn what to do with the yield instead of just blowing it or spending it on things that they don't need. And they already allocated the return. You could take any business and do whatever you wanted with it. Literally any business.